Hey, and welcome back to the Dice Tower. I'm Camilla Cleghorn.
I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia.
Today we're going to be taking a look at Trailblazer, the John Muir Trail. It's going to be a game about hiking the John Muir Trail out in the Sierra Mountains of California. You're going to go on a hike, which we're all familiar with, right?
I love hiking.
Ready
You can tell we do it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh man, I live on the mountain.
I can't remember last time a week I didn't hike.
You were born on a mountain.
In South Florida mostly, though, right?
Yeah,
all your
Yes, all the
vast
mountains
experience of South Florida
in South
hiking.
Florida.
What a hill.
Awesome. All right, well, before we go too much into it, though, let's check out how it plays. Trailblazers, the John Muir Trail, is going to be played over 12 rounds, in which ultimately players are trying to hike the John Muir Trail and get to the end here. It is really important to note up front that if a hiker does not reach the top of Mount Whitney, they are not eligible to win the game. At the end of 12 rounds, if you have not reached this spot, your tokens are removed from the board and you do not proceed to end game scoring. So you have 12 rounds to reach the top of Mount Whitney. In order to do that, you're going to need to have some natural resources, some personal resources, and you can send your workers out there to resupply on those. You can explore the local terrain here and find plants and animals, rivers, different things like that down here. Or you can discover new locations going up here and claiming those as well. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's go through a round structure. To start the game, you go into the sunrise phase. And to start every sunrise phase, you're going to draw a weather token. Most of these I'll say actually are fine, kind of benign, but there are a couple bad ones. So for example, this one here, well, there we go. How fortuitous. On the first day, the weather is going to be stormy. And so on this token, you're going to see an emblem in the lower left-hand corner, and that shows an additional resource that is needed to hike on the day. This is also going to serve as the round tracker as the day goes to keep track of how many rounds there are so you know when the game ends. So, day one, we have thunderstorms. Continuing in the sunrise phase, we're going to draw and play a trail card. To do that, though, let's take a closer look at the player board. In player order, players are going to draw a trail card and then play one of these from their hand. These are going to have a number of symbols on them which are resolved again in player order. The first thing to resolve is on the left, and this is going to be a skill or an item that you can load into your backpack. So for example, if I played this here, listen to a songbird, I would load the hammock into my backpack. This is called the elevate action, and we'll get to the actions here in a minute, but the elevate action is not one that you can trigger on its own, but it is a result of other actions that you'll take, such as this, playing a trail card. Now, had I already had the hammock in my backpack when I play this card, then I would take my tent and add it to the elevation track on the very first time, or in subsequent times when I play a card that has something already loaded in the backpack, I would move the camping token up on the elevation track over here. And we'll get to that when we go back to the main board though. But for now, if I had played this one, I would either add that to my backpack or move up on the elevation track and get the rewards on the right side. In this case, it would be 3 points. On this one, 1 point. Here, I would gain a natural resource of wind. And on this one, you'll see there is no icon on the left. I would just get rid of one of these hardship tokens. I do want to point out a couple things here on the player board before we go back to the main board, mainly right here in the backpack. Now, these are going to be filled in from left to right, bottom to top, the different symbols that you load into your backpack here. And as you complete each row, you're going to get the benefit associated with it on the right. So for example, when you complete this bottom row like I have here, you would get a natural resource, which you just take from the supply and add to your player board. These supplies are going to have a limit. For the natural resources up here, you have a limit of 12 as printed right here. And for these personal resources, their limit is indicated by the pips down below. The first person to reach this third row here is also going to take this Wind Rose token, which they can use in-game, or if they don't use it, they get 2 points at the end of the game. And the first person to complete the entire backpack will get 5 points, second person 3, and third person to completely fill it in with all 12 of their skills up here will get 1 point. As we take the Explore action and we get some of these locations here, then we will load these tokens onto our board as well the first time you get get that type, and again, you'll take the associated bonus with it. So this happens once for each type of these cards. And the first person to collect all 4 of those types will get 9 points, second 5, and third 3. These are scored in-game as going to be tracked on the main board. Speaking of which, let's head back to the main board and go into our daytime phase. In the daytime phase, players are going to use their tokens here in order to take different actions on the board one at a time. You take one action and then the next person, and you go until everybody has run out of these tokens or passed. The first thing you can do is to acquire resources. To do that, you would take one of your actions and go onto the space on the board and collect the number of resources. So for example, here you would collect 4 water, here 3 trees, 2 wind, and 1 fire. In a 4-player game, 2 people can go there, but otherwise all of these spaces are limited to 1 action pawn per round. You can take this action any number of times, but you can only go to 1 space once. So for example, I couldn't get more water, but I could come and get 2 wind as well. Another action you can do is to come over here and to explore a location. In order to do that, you would take one of these cards over here. For example, we'll look at the Vernal Falls. You're going to pay the resources in the middle of the card. Here is going to be a water and a tree. If you cannot pay one of these resources, then you must take a hardship token. After you've paid for it, if you have the icon in the left loaded into your backpack already, you're going to advance along the elevation trail. If you don't have it in your backpack, then you simply place it in your backpack. If doing this would complete one of those rows, you get the side bonus as well immediately. After that, we're going to look to the right side of the card here and take the points as indicated. Now, if you remember from before, if this is our first time getting this kind of location, then we would take that associated bonus on our player board as well. Players can also take the Discover action down here by again taking one of their actions and coming to one of the 5 locations down here. In order to do so, you would claim it like this, pay the resources at the top. So for example, for the bighorn sheep here, I need to pay a water and a wind resource. At that point, I take and I claim the card. Same as before, the icon on the left, if it's in my backpack, I would advance on the elevation trail. If it's not in my backpack, then I load it into the backpack. You get the points indicated in the middle of the card. They're not all going to be points, as you can see here. Sometimes it's resources, and sometimes it is to get rid of that hardship token that we had to take before. So different benefits from these cards. And you would add that to your hand. On the right-hand side, there's an icon for it, and this is for set collection at the end of the game, which we'll get to when we talk about scoring. So you would add this to your hand. This action spot up here is to take this first light token. You would take the token and add it to your player area and any water that has accumulated on it. This token is going to make you first player for the next round. Now if we come here to this action location, then you're going to draw 2 of these trail cards that we played earlier during the sunrise phase. You add these to your hand and then you immediately get to play 2 and take the benefits of them. You don't get the benefits of the backpack icons though, so you would just completely ignore those. We're only looking over here at the resources. So for example, if I played this one, I would take a water bottle and add it to the board, and then this one I would get 3 points. And then those would be discarded. The final action is going to be hiking, which is the whole reason of the game. In order to hike, you will take one of your action pawns and add it over here. Now note I am taking these off board. This is just to show once these are down, they are not moved until the end of the round when they're cleaned up. But if you go to the hiking icon over here, then you're going to advance yourself along the hiking trail 1 space. You'll see there is 1 for each player color, so this can only be done once per day per player. In order to hike, you have to pay the resources. So on this one, the weather is stormy, so I'm going to have to pay a fire. Plus, each player is going to have a map pack here that is individual and unique, and this is going to show additional supplies that they're going to need to hike. So in order to go into space number 1 here, this player is also going to need to pay a water. So a fire and a water will advance them along the trail. Once a player has reached the 4th spot here on the trail, then it opens up the High Sierra Lodge over here. And this is going to be another action space for them. On this space, they can refill their personal resources and get rid of hardship tokens. Note any number of players can go to these first 2 slots. Only 1 player per round can go to the last 3. Once everyone has placed out all of their action tokens, then we're going to move into the sunset phase. In the sunset phase, everyone must consume 1 food and 1 water, and those would go back to the supply. If you cannot do the water, then you can always play 2 natural resource waters in lieu of a water bottle. So that's 2 to 1 in this phase only. If you still cannot pay for something or you don't have the food, you would have to take a hardship token. We will then retrieve all of the tracks, returning them to your player area. We will refresh the field guide cards down here, so any of them that were taken, the first slot is cleared away, things are moved down, and those are going to refill. And we resolve the first light token. If a player has taken this first light token, then they become the first player for the next round. The token will then be returned and a water resource will be added to it. However, if nobody took that token, we just add a water resource to it, and the Trailblazer or first player icon will advance to the left. Now, if a player has received the Wind Rose token for being the first player to fill all 3 rows on their backpack, or if they've gotten the Elevation token by being the first player to reach the 4th spot here on the elevation chart, then this is end game points for them, or it gives them a special ability. They can use this either one of these one time by flipping it over, and you can see giving up the points in order to go to an action space that is already taken. But other than that, once the game is played through 12 rounds, at the end of the 12th round, you will pay your food and water and then go into end game scoring. For end game scoring, you are going to subtract for any hardship tokens, which is on a sliding scale. It's not 1 to 1. This is just the number. So for example, if you had 2 of these, that would be minus 9 points. After that, you're going to score any medallions that you still have not used. You will score your field guide cards in a set collection. For a set of 5 unique cards, you get 7 points, and that is going to be based on the symbols down here in the lower right corner. After that, we're all going to score the golden arrowhead bonus up here. This is going to be scored twice for every player. For example, here, each flower is worth 1 point, but because we're scoring it twice, each flower card they have would be worth 2 points. And finally, everyone is going to score any personal journey bonus arrowheads that they have. These are acquired as you go up the elevation track. When you reach certain locations, you will get to claim one of these for yourself, revealing the next one and giving 3 options to other players as well. So any that you have had collected will be scored at this point. Note, these are only scored once. So for example, here, for 4 cards of the Peaks and Passes variety, you get 9 points. Whereas this golden arrowhead is not available to take, everyone scores it twice. So these are scored twice. Your personal ones that you got from the elevation track are scored once. Tally up all those points here on the board, and highest points wins. So there you have it. That is Trailblazer, the John Muir Trail. Kind of a brief overview. There is a lot going on in this game.
Yeah.
First of all, I guess theme is really important to me, so I'm just going to jump in with that if you guys don't mind here. Theme and aesthetics, and I think this game nails both of those. I am an avid hiker, or was when I've lived in other parts of the country. I'm an avid hiker, and I think this game does a really good job of bringing that theme into the mechanisms in a very beautiful and pleasing way. It's got the Andrew Bosley art that I think just absolutely shines in this nature setting specifically.
Yeah, I agree. I think it looks really, really good. It's a sharp-looking game. There's a solid amount of artwork in it, too.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you...
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, you have artwork like from... What game? I was looking at a game recently, and I thought, wow, this looks beautiful. I love this artwork. And then you get in there and you realize there's not much of it. It's like 8 pieces of art or whatever.
Right.
There's a ton of artwork in here, a ton of graphic design. There's just like wall-to-wall things that needed to be illustrated, designed, composed, and I think all of it looks good, makes sense. The game is very, very abstracted in what it's trying to do, because you have to do that. But they got into the nitty-gritty of it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like if you play a hiking game or a parks or whatever, they don't get down into like, you need the GPS, and you need the walking sticks, and the binoculars, and I'm like, wow, okay, they're going deep with this one.
You can tell it's a passion project, if you will, and I mean that in the most positive way possible. You can tell that the designer knows hiking, knows what it takes, and is putting that knowledge into a board game design. You know, that is, I think, backed up by good mechanisms as well, and then communicated that to the artist of it's on this trail and here's some pictures of it, or this is the waterfall that I want you to draw and a picture as reference, that kind of stuff. So you can actually see the reality of these things in the game, which I think is really uniquely done in this.
I think it might be too much of a passion project. I think there might be a couple of things he might have cut. I would have streamlined the game a bit in various ways. But again, the theme is very strong.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some oddities. I'm not sure why I'm going up an elevation on one track and moving down a trail on another track, but I don't care that much. It's a Euro-style game.
We're moving up the trail. John Muir's up. It's a
Yes, but I'm saying you move up on different timings on the two different tracks, which I was like, I'm at a really high elevation, or, you know, it's not a big deal.
With the tent
that actual elevation. Yeah.
Right.
But again,
it's a gamery thing. Like
whatever, it's a game thing.
That is the one thing in that theme meets mechanisms I felt like that I was a little disconnected on, is like, wait, why am I going up in elevation here and getting benefits as I go that didn't really connect to me with the actual hiking main action? That felt the most gamery part of it.
I also thought that track could have been made better. Moving those tents in that track in the way you did it was kind of annoying to move them down there.
When you have multiples, it becomes a little finicky, right?
Okay.
A disc might have worked better.
It might have, and a tent,
tent
or
is cool.
bigger spaces or something.
Maybe.
That was, again, I'm being very nitpicky, but that was the only. Everything else is gorgeous, looks great.
Yeah, and the artwork here, Andrew Bosley, right?
It is.
It fits well. I think it's like, it looks like Everdell without the anthropomorphic animals in a way. You know what I mean?
He's one of the best in the business. I thought they were pictures. Almost.
Yeah, they look good. And you can. It probably is pictures he illustrated, like you were saying, reference things, and then he illustrated them. They look really good.
Yeah. So mechanisms-wise, again, I felt there's times that there is that disconnect, but on almost everything, I love being able to see that theme coming through to where the mechanisms stand solid on their own to me. But yet I see that connection to the theme, and it makes sense. And I know we had a talk about this, about the sunrise token, and if you're going to go there to take the first player up there, and how you're like, I don't understand why that's there. That's.
I just don't think it's a good. I think it's a poor mechanism.
Interesting.
It would be. Here's the thing: a first player token to take it is a useful thing because you get to go first, and I like that idea. The fact that the water builds up is less interesting to me on it because it is not good to take with one. It is also not good to take if you're going to be first. You have very few actions at the beginning of the game. Near the end of the game, you have 5 actions to take, and it's a better action. But if it was always 3 water, it just stayed 3 water, it would be a better thing.
See, but I saw it as a secondary way to get water. So I know in a different play, not the one we were in together, I did take it when it only had 1 or 2 water on it because the water action was taken, even though I was going to be first player next time. But I also wanted to be first player next time so that I would be able to combo it with this action to complete my backpack. So I got that 5 points. So I mean, I think it's about a chain of events that comes from taking it, even if you are the first person or it only has 1 water on it.
It's just first player tokens in games. This one's a weird one because it passes around. When almost every game that allows you to take a first player token, if you don't take it, first player stays the same.
That's true. I agree with that.
The fact that it moves if you don't take it has some really weird situations, and you can get skipped, and you can never be first player in this game
unless you go take the first player token.
Yeah, but you do so sometimes at the expense. If you already have water from other things or whatever, it could feel like a wasted action.
It's also the only action on the entire board in the entire game, and it has tons of mechanisms, which is one of those every round we add 1 type mechanisms. It's the only one
that kind of gets
in the
better.
entire game. Like there's no where you get the fire tokens every round. It's not taken. You can get 1 more. That's not a thing. It's only that token.
I usually love that kind of thing in games. Rosenberg does it all the time.
He does it all the time. But I'm kind of in between you guys. I like it building and becoming juicier because it's not taken, and it's obvious they did that because it kind of sucks. If you don't, it's bad. Like nobody would take it.
It's an investment for the next round.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also don't dislike the idea of it being a set thing. I might have gone with you take it and you get 2 of anything or whatever. Fire might be too good, though. You could take 2 fire, maybe 2 different things.
2 different things.
And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't have to upkeep this thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't disagree with you there. It's a little like, oh, right, put water on the thing. Put water on the thing. Just because it's the only spot you need to refill in the entire game. So, yeah, I kind of feel that.
Yeah.
This game for me, as more mechanisms came to the table, threatened to go into like, there's a lot going on, there's too much going on. It sort of was like about to pounce on me from that point of view. And then I eased into it, and I thought everything worked together really, really well.
I think the theme helps in that regard.
It does, sure, yeah.
It would probably be... This is actually a bigger Euro game than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting this to be a more medium weight. This is leaning into a heavier game. There's a lot going on.
See, you said that as well. I thought it was more solid medium.
I think that the theme helps.
And maybe that's it because I have the connection to the theme, so I absorbed the game better.
Yeah, I agree. If you give this to somebody who is, again, this feels medium heavy. This is not a light game. There's a lot going on. And like I said, it threatened to go there for me, but I was able to not feel that cumbersome or overwhelmed feeling. And I really enjoyed the way everything came together, yeah.
I had a couple issues with the game. One is I had a hard time figuring out points in this game and figuring out it's hard for me to judge the values of stuff. Like sets are worth, if you get a full set, I think it's 7 points. If you get 5 different colors. So that makes a card sort of worth a 1.5 or so if you take it.
Right.
So that's 2 resources for a 1.5, but you also get a benefit. And then over here, the bigger cards are worth 5 points to 10 points or whatever, and they're more. I just had a hard time figuring that out. And I didn't think the arrowheads were particularly. Some felt better than others.
Right.
I think for me, it felt like all the card scoring, because it's points possibly for set collection, yes, but you're getting resources, you're getting backpack stuff. They're obscuring the scoring well.
Yes.
It feels to me like I can't tell how much this is really worth. It might be worth 3 points to me and like 1.8 points to you, right? Because of the stuff. You might have that backpack thing already, which moves you up on the track. How much is that worth?
Which gives you that elevation point,
yeah,
maybe.
It's fuzzy, and I like that. Hide that from me, please. The arrowheads are very, very obvious. That's the problem. Yeah. It's like, that caps out at 5, because it says it right there. 5 if you don't have this or do have that. Some of the other ones are like, a point per flower. I'm like, how many are there? How many do you expect me to get? 4?
How many come out?
3?
Yeah.
Right, because then if you start collecting, and I think those are weaker, because then if you collect a lot of flowers, you're also not getting the diversity sets.
You're not getting the sets, right. So it's like, wait, this is very transparent, the scoring on these arrowheads. And some are clearly really good. Like, I can look at one and go, 12 easy points right there, bam. The other 2 are garbage right now.
Especially as you get closer to the end game and higher on that elevation track, that second arrowhead that you take for the personal scoring,
right.
It really is like, okay, what am I already set up for? Because you didn't see it coming.
Yes.
So it's like, what do you kind of almost luck into a little bit? So that was a little bit. I did think it was interesting, though, how you have the one arrowhead that scores double for everybody. And then the lower ones that you collect just for yourself. I liked that, but I think it does kind of exaggerate that flaw of the wide spectrum of those arrowheads. Does that mean each flower is now worth 2 points, or does that mean if I get 2 sets of the the locations, then that's 30 points? Because those are the per set is like 9 points per set or something like that. So it's like, that is huge. That
one's locked out there. You see it from the very beginning. I like that it's random.
I do like that a lot.
It could be anything, and it's going to change the tone of the game a little bit. Mm-hmm. Some of them are kind of inconsequential. Like, I keep saying flowers because the only one I remember, 1 point per flower times 2. I'm not even going to worry about that much. Yeah. Well, how much could you possibly get? But some of the big scoring ones, everybody's going to want to go for that.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Which puts a lot of pressure on those worker placement spots as well.
Yeah.
Which is something else I want to talk about. Is I found that in the different player counts I played it at, played it at 2, I played it at 4, I really liked kind of the pressure of that. I feel like there was a good balance of not quite enough spots for everybody to where you really are having to plan out multiple turns to try to get that one that I have to have that one. But then also enough fluidity where there's always somewhere you can go and something you can do that's going to benefit you.
I have one I disagree with that on one point. This is my biggest problem with the game overall. I like lots of things. There's lots of cool things about it. It's too long. The game is 12 days. It takes 12 days to move on a thing?
Well, that's average. It takes 12 to 14 days,
rounds,
yeah.
But it's...
To hike the actual trail. No, the actual, like in real life.
The actual takes 10 days? Or 12 days?
12, yeah.
The game shouldn't be 12 rounds. Maybe in 2 players it's not a problem, but with 4 it's too long, and there's a couple problems that exasperate that. It's a worker placement game that gives more workers as you go up in the elevation, does not give more spots. And so near the end of the game, you are like, I guess I'll do this. All the other spots are taken, and the game at the end doesn't drag. It drags a bit, I mean. Game should crescendo, and near the end you're like, oh, this last turn. Here, the last turn and the final worker placements played, you're like, I guess this. And I worry about that. It was just too long. And I think this is where I think the theming kind of got in the way of the game. I would have had a 10-round game, and you had to move up the trail 8 times or something like that.
Yeah.
I would have, or maybe even shorter than that. There's a lot going on, and I don't think they changed much. Like with 4 players, they had a couple more spots on the board to place workers.
Right.
You need that more than a couple, because that's going to change the tenor of the game a lot. So I like everything about the game. I'm giving the game a 6 because I don't dislike it. I like lots of things about it. It just went on too long. That's the biggest problem for me. And was not particularly slow people playing. I mean, there's certainly times of the thoughts, and I didn't feel like the last few turns were very exciting. I felt like the game peaked around turns 8, 9. That was, I got an extra worker. Oh, that was exciting. I also would have capped that off at 4 workers over 3. Like at some point you get a 4 workers over 5, right? You would have got that 4th worker. That's exciting. To get a 5th, and then other little minor things, the arrowheads and stuff. Yeah. But it's a great production. There's fun into it. If you like hiking, this is like the first game depending on how much you like games, I might buy them a lighter game depending on the gamer. But if you are someone who likes strategy games and you like hiking, i.e. your name is Camilla, this is the game, right? There's no question on that.
It's like Parks Plus.
Yeah.
In many ways, right?
So I would play this, but I wouldn't pick it. Is my rating.
All right.
I should go next because I'm assuming you're the high score here.
I assume so as well.
But I'm giving it a very good score. I really had a good time with it. I'm coming in at an 8. I really enjoy everything that the mix, the soup, I enjoyed quite a bit. Some of the same things you said I had an issue with. Yeah, the star player sunrise, wake, whatever it's called thing. Yeah, it's a little weak sauce. And the arrowheads are a little transparent in their scoring for me. Everything else for me works. It has a nice build. Filling the backpack up has a good vibe, a good feel. It almost gives me a little bit of that Ganshan clever roll and write thing where I buy a card that gets me a thing, that puts the last token in this row on the backpack, and that gets me a thing. And you know what I mean? I like that. Cascading little moments are fun. That's just neat stuff. I like that you play the 12 rounds, and you need to hike 8 times. So you can not hike a couple of times, but then you better hike every day.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the right amount of tension. Not the kind of tension that I literally might not score at the end. That sucks. Which is possible, but incredibly unlikely. You're gonna get there.
You would have to go out of your way.
You'd have to try to not win. You know what I mean?
You might have to take a hardship.
Try to not finish, I should say. So I thought that was good that they gave you 2 wiggle room days, but there's a nice amount of pressure. There's a good balance in there. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun mid to heavy Euro game with a lot of good stuff happening. And the turns, I think, are nice and quick also.
That's true.
Which I like as well. I don't want a lot of cascading things that aren't obvious and quick. I want to be able to take a quick turn, put out a thing. I did it, go, and that keeps the pace up. So, yeah, strong 8 from me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that those turns being quick, to me, kind of mitigates that, maybe the game being a little bit long. I'm coming in at a 9 for this game. I think, as you said, I mean, it sings to me. It's hiking, it's outdoors, it's a gorgeous production, and it's a good strategy game. I enjoy the arc of the game as well. You talked about how there's 12 days, you have to hike at least 10 of them to even be eligible to win the game.
Sure.
And I think that kind of creates your own little personal arc. You know, a little bit of push your luck of, okay, it's thunderstormy today, I don't have that extra resource, I'm going to maybe wait and hike tomorrow and hope it's clear to save that resource.
That's good.
You know,
Yeah.
so you have this personal arc that you're building. I'm definitely not going to be the first done, so that's okay. Maybe I'll hang back another day and go ahead and take my other rest day to be able to recover and really get this other scoring opportunity over here, something like that. So for me, it's a great balance of solid mechanisms where I can see the theme, they sell it, and it keeps me engaged the whole time. So yes, it is the same actions over and over again, but as you are trying to do a little bit of everything, I really think that it shines. And I love the variability of the game as well. So the tokens out, the arrowheads, those are random. So that's variability we're all used to. But just like hiking, you can go out and do the same trail 4 or 5 times. But every time is going to be a different experience. And I think that I feel that in this game. It talks about the different variations here where you can actually do the decline of the mountain and start at Mount Whitney and hike back to your start. And so little things like that, which of course is going to have your map pack. It's going to be harder at the beginning and push resources at the beginning. So, because you have to have extra resources, and I just love
they're
those
in the same places.
because they're the same places because you're going.
To the beginning.
That's right.
Oh wow!
And so, just different things like that. It just has such a good real world connection for me when I live in South Florida and can't go hiking, and I love that balance.
So if you can't go hiking, play this game.
Play this game. This great winter game, right? For those that can hike. Anyway, so for me, it's a 9. It really is. It's such a sweet spot, and just left me so very happy at the end of all my plays. I've really walked away in a good mood from all of them.
All right.
So, yeah, so for me it's a 9, and that has been Trailblazer, the John Muir Trail. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Camilla Cleghorn.
I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia.
Go take a hike. Go hiking.